What are 6 coping skills for anxiety? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all about parenting, good communication, processing, problem solving, how to build strong family bonds all over the world through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we are talking about coping with anxiety. So in this video, we're going to talk a little bit about what it means to cope with anxiety, and then I'm going to share with you 6 things that you can do to better cope with anxiety or to help someone who you love that's experiencing anxiety better cope too. It's really hard to have anxiety, but the good news about anxiety is that everybody has it. So to have anxiety is to be human, actually. To overfocus on your anxiety can create more of an anxiety problem than other people might experience. So this leads to increased anxiety and increased stress. Of course, there are other factors that can lead a person to anxiety. Sometimes they might have some sort of a processing difference that leads to higher levels of anxiety, or there might be a situation where they've had an experience in their past that seems to trigger them in certain circumstances. However, if we look at a trigger and we examine what that means something happens that makes me start to focus on something, maybe even over-focus on something. So can you train yourself not to have that trigger be a trigger for you anymore? The answer is yes. You absolutely can do that. You have to decide to want to, though. Many people don't like giving up their triggers or their anxieties. They're used to them. It's a part of them. And so they don't want to make that change, even though they really don't like the anxiety. So I am going to challenge you to think in terms of, I can choose something different right now. I don't have to choose anxiety. It will require stepping out of a comfort zone. It could be a little bit difficult for you, but it absolutely is possible. For many years, I took in treatment children. They were all between the ages of 12 and 18 years old, and almost all of them dealt with anxiety in some form or another due to either trauma or processing differences, or both combined. Needless to say, I spent a lot of time over the years working with these troubled children, helping them cope with their anxiety, teaching them what they could do to decide not to have an anxiety attack or to be debilitated socially, personally, spiritually even, or academically because of anxiety. So let's talk about some of those things that maybe you can try too. Number 1, focus on solving a new problem. I know that sounds easier said than done. So you've got this thing you're overthinking on. You're hyper-focusing on it. It makes you feel like you can't move, that you're stuck. You're experiencing anxiety. This is a problem. And did you know your brain is saying, can I solve this problem? How do I solve this problem? And so you get stuck hyper-focusing on the one problem. Did you know that if you introduce a new problem to solve, and you tell yourself, I'm not going to think about that problem, I'm putting that away. Now I'm going to think about this new problem, that sometimes that can actually decrease your anxiety. So what I would train my children to do was to describe situations. So they would, instead of emotionally react to them. So let's say they felt a trigger of some sort. They felt anxiety coming on. I would train them to say, this is anxiety. It's just anxiety. Everyone experiences anxiety. I'm going to give my anxiety a no answer. So now the question becomes, the problem becomes, because I described it, I didn't describe the situation leading to the anxiety, I described the anxiety now. This is just anxiety. So now I can do something with it. It's a new problem and I don't have to think about, the test that I'm worried about or something like that that might be leading to the anxiety. That's the old problem. I'm not thinking about it anymore. Now I'm just going to think about this one singular problem. I'm going to have singleness of purpose on the anxiety, and I'm going to say, Okay, that's just anxiety. I can choose not to have it. What do I know about anxiety? I know that every single person has it. I know that I may have it a little bit more often because I've created a habit of it, or because my brain has developed a habit of having anxiety. But I'm going to tell my brain right now to do this other thing. I am going to tell my brain to drop the subject, or I am going to tell my brain to disagree appropriately with the teacher about more time, or I am going to tell myself that as long as I do my best, that's enough. I don't need to be perfect. Whatever the thing is that's behind that anxiety about that particular situation is something I can now address because I've removed it and made it into a new problem. The new problem is manageable. The old problem seems too big. I know that seems basic, but just being able to do that one movement in your brain can make all the difference in your anxiety. So basically, it's having a change of brain. Do you know self-government is all about understanding yourself and knowing how to change yourself and change your brain. Now, I know there's certain things that feel like they get hung up in your brain, or maybe if you're looking at this video for somebody else, there might be certain hang-ups for them. Maybe you should leave me a comment or a question related to how I would handle that particular situation so that I can help you a little bit more closely with what's going on with your anxiety. Number 2, we have to habit change. So that means we have to think a productive thought. When you are having anxiety about something, if you keep thinking about that thing and thinking, I can't, this is too much for me, that is a non-productive thought. So what you need to do is you need to think a productive thought. Just like some of the questions that I suggested in the previous coping strategy for finding a new problem, I suggested saying things to yourself like, what do people do to overcome anxiety? What skill do I have to use to overcome anxiety? Start asking yourself questions instead of telling yourself that you feel like you're going to shut down. That is not going to be productive for you. The way that a person habit trains themselves is they recognize that there is a point where they start to think the same thing whenever something happens. So let's say the teacher says, you have a test. It's coming up today or on Friday. And immediately when you hear the word test, you panic. You start to sweat. You start to worry. That would mean that the word test is a trigger for you to start worrying about something. That's a habit that you have. So how do you habit train yourself? You think of the word test in a new light. You say to yourself, a test really means nothing because some people are good test takers and some people are not good test takers. A test does not really measure everything I know about a topic. It only measures what they want me to know about a topic, which really is not the most important thing to me. So I'm going to put in a certain amount of time in preparation for the test, and then I'm going to decide that whatever the outcome is totally fine with me. Or maybe the person could think, I'm not super great at taking tests, but I can be really great at prepping for a test. And that could make all the difference. So I'm going to get a tutor or a helper, somebody to help me prep for the test. That's a productive thought that you can think right when you hear the word test. This is going to change your focus away from the anxiety as well, and will hopefully create a new habit. Every time you hear the word test, now you're going to think, who's my mentor? Who's my coach on the test? Or tests are no big deal. I've already decided that tests don't measure my intelligence. They're just something they need to record if they've taught stuff or not. And I don't care. And of course, you could use the same philosophy, the same type of habit training of the brain for anything that brings you anxiety. Number 3, cast it out. Did you know anxiety is actually a lie? That's important to recognize. It's something that a person chooses to have. Sure, they may choose it unconsciously because it is a habit, but they're actually still choosing to have that anxiety and to hold on to it. So cast it out, push it away. It's a lie. I cannot tell you how many times I have actually said, wait, I think I'm feeling stress right now. There could be some anxiety about this, There's no reason for me to feel anxiety about this, so I am just going to push it away. I am just going to cast it out. And I will go into my closet and I actually pray. And I say to my Heavenly Father, hey, I know that this is a lie. I can do anything that I need to do. If you see fit for me to do it, I can trust in you and I can do it. And if I fail, I fail. So what? But I don't need to spend my time worrying about it. So I'm pushing this off. This is actually not a thought of light. This is a thought of darkness, and I am choosing not to follow it. And I just say, get thee hence. I just cast it out, push it away. I tell Satan, go away. I'm not yours. That sounds basic, but it really does work. I follow Jesus Christ. I don't follow Satan. That's what I tell Satan. It's done. Step number 4, give yourself a no answer. So I teach 4 basic skills of self-government as part of the basic training of self-government. Those 4 basic skills are following instructions, accepting no answers and criticism, accepting consequences, and disagreeing appropriately. Accepting no answers is a vital skill for coping with anxiety. How do you accept a no answer? You look at the person or the situation. I have a test coming up. Or maybe somebody is disappointed in me. Maybe that brings you anxiety. That's a situation. Step 2, keep a calm face, voice, and body about it. Step 3, say, okay, it is what it is. I can't change them. Or disagree appropriately with them. That's a whole other skill of self-government. And then step number 4 is to drop the subject. Those are the 4 steps to accepting a no answer. That means I don't think about it anymore. Dropping the subject is easier said than done, especially if you have a habit of over-focusing. So you might have to deliberately tell yourself, drop the subject. Number 5, describe big picture truths. Since we know that the anxiety is a lie, tell yourself the truths that are in a big picture sense. Because here's the thing is it's the detail hang up that's leading to the anxiety. You're getting focused in on these little details that probably are lies, but the big picture is true. The big picture is I can make it through this day just fine. I will be able to carry on a regular life whether I succeed or whether I fail at that, because I'm going to keep living, because I'm a person, and that just keeps going. That's a super big picture truth. Sometimes a person who's having an anxiety attack needs to be reminded of that. I know people who worry about running out of food. Maybe they have an OCD about food collection or something like that. And they need to hear, it doesn't matter what happens with the food. As long as I have people around me that love me, we will figure it out. We will share. We will work together. It will be okay. Now that doesn't mean you don't save food, because I do believe in being prepared. But if you are so worried about being prepared that you can't get it out of your mind that something bad's going to happen and you're not going to be prepared, then you're at a state of anxiety over it. So tell yourself it doesn't matter. You know, I homeschooled my children, not my foster children, but my biological children. And there were times where I wanted them to be making bigger advancements in some of their academics than they were. And I had to tell myself, you know what? The big picture is everybody learns no matter what. So they're not going to go through all these years of me trying to teach them and never learn anything. It's going to happen. And the same thing that could happen here could happen at the school or anywhere else. And so I'm not failing. They're just not learning this particular thing as quickly as I would like. Coping strategy number 6 is talk to someone about something else. Go bond with someone about something else. If you're worried about someone being disappointed in you, then either go talk to that person or go talk to somebody else and have another conversation, not about the person that's disappointed in you. That doesn't help all the time. Every once in a while, you can talk about it and get it out and it helps. But sometimes if you're in a state of anxiety, it can just feed it more so that you keep processing on it and you can't be done with it. Instead, go and talk to somebody else about something else. Maybe you talk about a ball game or a book you've read or some movie that you'd like to go see. Plan an activity, do something. And then while you're doing something with that person, tell yourself a really important big picture truth. See, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm thinking about something else. It's okay. It's all just thoughts in my head. That's what anxiety is. It's thoughts in your head. And you can tell those thoughts to get away. You have that much power. Bonding with another person shows you that you have support. It gives you courage to think some of those new thoughts. Coping with anxiety can seem overwhelming It can be a constant task, a diligent thing that you have to keep working on again and again. But there are things that you can do. So have hope. Tell yourself that it's possible. Tell yourself that you can do it, even if it's going to be hard. Have an accountability person, someone you talk to about that, whether it's a parent or a therapist or a good friend. Have someone that you discuss your coping strategies with that will remind you of your coping strategies and that you've made that plan, and then follow through. If you take the time to work on your anxiety in a deliberate way, it doesn't have to hold you back forever. Even if you have more of an anxious personality, you can conquer this. You can give yourself a no answer and move on. If you would like to find out more about what you can do to help yourself, there is a free class here on this page. It's called The Expectation Trap versus the Cycle for Success. It could be that in your anxiety, you are falling into an expectation trap, and that class could really help you get on a new path so that you can overcome that anxiety more and find greater success. So click on the link now.